Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. You caused the car accident. I'm not worried, but now you want to make a big deal? Okay. I hope I'm in the right place for this, and please excuse the formatting, I'm on a tablet. This happened nearly 20 years ago. I had sold my car, and a mate had a van sitting on his lawn. He owed me $50, so said I could have it. I headed over there with my girlfriend in a taxi, picked up the beast, and started heading home. On the way home, it started pouring down with rain, so we did a detour to the supermarket instead of walking later on. While driving down the narrow street, a car door opened and I plowed into it. I didn't have the chance to react. It was opened at the perfect time that it wasn't possible. Freaking out that I just hit someone, I pulled over as quick as possible and ran back to the car. There was a girl in the car and she was not injured but crying, freaking out that her boyfriend was going to be mad as heck because she'd come down to the shops to get him smokes. I told her I wasn't worried about my car because the bull bar took the hit, and if she wanted me to hang around until he got there, I could stay. Around 5 minutes later, he arrived and instantly started abusing me, accusing me of hitting his car, etc. I politely told him that his girlfriend opened the door while I was driving past. She was parked outside the parking bay lines. Technically, it was her fault. After several minutes of abuse, I agreed that we should exchange details as I was going to get his insurance to pay for the damage to my $50 car. He laughed and started to put out his wallet. I don't think so, buddy. It's your car, but she was driving. I want her details. We exchanged details, jumped in my POS car, and headed home. Several weeks go by, and I received a letter in the mail demanding I pay the damage I did to his car. Quite annoyed by the insurance company, I called the local police station and explained what had happened. The officer said that normally if I were to hit a car like I did, I would be at fault, but because he knew the particular street and how narrow it was, only room for cars to drive one direction at a time despite being a two-way street. Yeah, stupid, I know. It was actually the other person's fault. Route rule, blah blah, alighting from a vehicle causing damage to another vehicle. Fine and demerits points. I can't remember exact dollar amount or how many points you lose. I create my letter declining payment, why, and inserted copies of the 3 quotes I obtained from local panel beaters. I posted that letter with great enjoyment. Several weeks later, I received another letter from the insurance company stating that their client had agreed that both parties should bear their own cost and pay for their own damage. Thinking back to how much of an A-hat the boyfriend had been, I called the insurance company. I eventually got onto a supervisor and explained the situation. If the police had to have attended, she would have received a fine, etc. The supervisor went silent for a few seconds and said, "She?" Yeah, she, the driver, not the owner. The person who was driving, the person whose license details I have. It turned out he had made the claim and said he was driving, not her. The conversation didn't go for much longer, but the supervisor did say that they would be passing the case to their fraud department. Several weeks later, I received a check for the damage to my $50 car. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was around $1,500 to $1,600. Edit. This got a lot busier than I expected. This happened in Australia. Each state laws are different. In the state I am in, it is not compulsory to have insurance. Silly, but not a law like it is in other states. If you do have insurance, it covers your car and not a friend's car, hire car, etc. To my knowledge, not something I want to explore the finer details of after the fact. Without looking it up, insurance you have covers yourself, your car, and any other nominated people. I don't know what the insurance policies are regarding driving other people's cars or others driving your car, because it's not something I do or allow. I do know that if someone below a certain age drives my car and has an accident, it will cost more for the excess. I know I have to tell my insurance provider what modifications I have made to my car, and if I don't, I could void my policy. Edit 2. I really need to clean out my filing cabinet. I found the paperwork from the insurance company. It happened on the 25th of February 2002, so 18 years ago, and the amount I received was $1,754 to be exact. It actually took a little longer than I remembered to get the payment. I'd also forgotten that I had sent them a follow-up letter just after my call to get everything in writing, and that letter was in June, so it must have been just after that I got the check. My memory must be a little worse than what I thought, or I just forgot the boring parts. In regarding to the rule regarding open doors, I'm going by what he said, or at least my memory of it. I'm not a lawyer or police officer, so I don't know the intricacies of it. I simply know by common sense, don't open your door and hit crap. Looking at the law that someone found, yes, you're at fault if you open your door, but I would imagine that it wouldn't be black and white and there would be a little bit of gray there. I'm just highly amused that this person got a van for $50 from their friend and then ends up getting literally $1,700 because of an accident. I mean, that dude shouldn't have been a jerk about it because he wouldn't have had to go through all of that. But that's kind of funny to me because he probably could afford to actually like fix anything wrong with it, or at least some things wrong with it after that incident. These aren't for individual sale. Native English speaker, typing on laptop, any formatting or spelling, grammatical errors, you'll just have to deal with it because I ain't fixing them. A few years ago, I worked at an optometry clinic selling glasses, contacts, etc. As a courtesy to our patients, if someone urgently needed a pair of contacts or wanted an extra pair for vacation, etc., we would charge them a dispense fee per pair of $20 or so. I can't remember exactly. It wasn't something that lawfully we are supposed to do, but it was a gray enough area that we continued doing it and our patients appreciated it, since a lot of them only wore contacts some of the time and didn't want to spend money on boxes. And sometimes if someone ordered boxes and they were leaving on vacation or something, we'd just give them the trial pair for free. Enter entitled brat, a woman who was slow to pay on her bills, never ordered boxes of contacts, and only ever got single pairs of contacts. She had a specialty prescription, so her trial contacts actually cost us money, unlike most trials which are sent for free. This is why you aren't really supposed to collect money for them, but we didn't. We charged a dispensing fee, wink wink, so skirted the rules a bit. One day, entitled brat enters our clinic. She lost or ripped one of her contacts. No problem, we'll get another one ordered. Now, since her contacts were special made and cost us some money, her dispensing fee was a little higher, maybe $30. Her boxes would have cost about $400 for a 6-month supply because they're specialty lenses, high astigmatism correction. For comparison, a 6-month supply for myself typically costs about $120, and our prices were very competitive, less than 1-800 contacts, and we didn't charge shipping if people picked up in store. Anyway, we order her replacement lens, call her when it's in, and she comes to pick it up. My manager tells her it'll be $14 for the one lens, and she flips out, saying it should be free, it's not her fault the lens ripped, etc., etc. My manager listens patiently and then explains that we always charge a dispensing fee, that her contact lenses cost us money, and we're charging in order to cover that cost, as well as man-hours spent putting together her order. That's when she sees the fine print on the contact lens container, not for individual sale. Triumphantly, she points that out and demands she should have the lens free. My manager takes the lens off the counter, makes a show of reading the print, and says, "You're right. I'm sorry. I can't sell you this. We'll have to send it back to the lab and get our money back. I'm afraid that you'll just have to order boxes from now on." Entitled brat gapes at my manager, then asks, "Okay, how much for a 6-month supply?" My manager consults the price sheet, calculates tax, and says, "For 2 6-packs, that'll be roughly $405. "But I only wear these part-time. Can't I just get one pair?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but like you said, they're not for individual sale. I'm afraid we cannot do that any longer. It would be unethical. So you can order boxes here or elsewhere. Those are the options." Defeated by her own words, entitled brat took a copy of her prescription to order contacts online. For the remainder of my time working there, I don't remember her ever coming back. Now, gonna be real honest here. I'm not sure how I feel about what they were doing. I understand that in one sense they may be doing a favor to regulars, because I assume that technically those samples are only for people who have not tried them before, and they're probably specifically getting certain ones or requesting certain ones for their customers. Like, I get that. At the same time, technically they're supposed to be for free though, so like it's like I understand kind of what they were doing, but it kind of sounds a little sketchy. But I mean, I guess if you want to complain when people are doing you a favor, this is what you're gonna get. Only paying me for 1 hour's work? Well, alrighty then. A few years ago, I was teaching at a university in the UK as a grad student, and they switched up their payment system for teaching seminars. The previous system had been that we prepped the seminar, taught the seminar, and were paid for the time it took to do both. We were expected to not be fraudulent in our timesheets and received a decent level of pay for the work we did, approximately £23 per hour. That rate of pay was pretty cheap compared to faculty, and we often created our own course content, updated old courses, and so on. Quite a few of us actually shortchanged ourselves because, while we did the reading, we weren't expected to and didn't feel right charging for it. Then they changed the system. The university was losing money paying us, and our feedback wasn't top-notch. It wasn't going to be. We only had a morning of training before teaching seminars. HR gathered us in a room and told us that we would now be paid for 1 hour of prep for every unique hour of seminar, and our pay was dropping to £13 an hour. I stuck my hand up and asked, so if we've prepped for an hour, we should stop prepping and then just teach what we've got? They conferred at the front of the room and hesitantly replied, yes, I suppose that is what we're saying. The next day, we had an email sent around by HR. All faculty would now be required to give us sufficient teaching notes so that we would take an hour maximum to prepare for an hour's seminar. Obviously, that didn't happen. As an example, one of the first seminar series I taught under the new structure, my guidance consisted of a brief conversation in passing in the hallway. Without that, I doubt I would have had anything. So, new term, new students. First seminar rolls around, I get through 20 minutes, run out of material, inform the students of the new payment ruling, and say they can either grab a coffee with me or they can leave. Same thing happened in all of my other seminars that week. It's probably worth mentioning at this point that my seminars were not part of the exam material. They were to help with coursework. In the vacated 40 or so minutes of each seminar, I did discuss coursework with the students who stuck around, so I was making sure they weren't losing out. After all, this wasn't their fault, and they shouldn't lose out. After my first round of seminars, I think I taught about 60% of the department's students. Some of them found it amusing, some found it irksome, none complained directly to me about my teaching. I'd made it very clear to them who to contact, and they did. I got called into the office, got asked to explain myself, I did. They told me I wasn't to do it again the next week. I asked for more money to reflect the work I would be doing. They said they would review it. They didn't get back to me before the next round of seminars, so I did the same thing. This repeated for about 6 or 7 rounds of seminars. Each time the students grew progressively and expectedly agitated. Then someone went to a national newspaper. An article was published, profiled a couple of different people, quoted me anonymously a few times, private survey that I responded to, and we were all emailed by HR. There would be no changes, they said. We were all to read a blog they had written, they said. We would all be switched to less secure contracts next year, they said, with a temp agency. We were expected to prepare fully for the hour of teaching we were paid to do, and they anticipated that it would take an hour to prepare for an hour. They would take no questions. Every single one of my students that term got a 2-to-1 or higher on their courseworks, 3.3 GPA or higher for those across the pond, and not graded on a curve. I won a couple of teaching awards from students, not faculty, and finished the term dead chuffed with how my students did. I wasn't offered any teaching the next term, nor were the people who had spoken to the newspaper, nor anyone else who had taken the same line I had. Gee, I wonder why. That's ridiculous. I don't understand how people can expect to do that. To have people be paid significantly less per hour and be given significantly less time to prepare and expect them to do the same, to expect them to stay in the first place is beyond me. And then to expect them to be able to provide the same quality. That's just ridiculous. People are dumb, and I'm glad that they got exposed for it, and clearly they just doubled down, but at least you know that that's not the place for you, obviously. Anyway, that is going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Real quick, I would like to thank my patrons. Up on the screen, you should see my face palmers. and my crazy K's. Thank you all so much for supporting me in that way. If you're interested in becoming a patron, checking out the original posts from today's video, or sending me an email for possible inclusion in a future video, all of that information is in the description box, so be sure to check it out. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!